Man, that movie Renfield sure was a trip, wasn't it? Anyway, that's just a tidbit of what's to come. This is the Moonlight Kingdom podcast reviews. Oh no, Moonlight Kingdom Reviews. I am your host, the man on the moon, coming to you live. So, Moonlight citizens, let's get ready to blast off in this review of the Universal Studios Horror Comedy Renfield in 3, 2, 1. All right. Before we dive into that, just give some context about Universal Studios Monsterverse. See, this Monsterverse, the whole concept of Universal Studios monsters and shared universe and everything, that started way back in the day. Back in the days of black and white movies, Boris Karloff, Frankenstein, and I think his name is Roberto Benigni. I don't know for sure, but I think it is. Like his Dracula movie. It was back in those days that Universal Studios was pumping out monster movies by the bunch. Your Dracula, your Frankenstein, the Creature from the Black Lagoon, and then they started doing crossovers with each other. You had like Frankenstein and Dracula. No, you had like Dracula versus Wolfman and the Mummy getting up in there. That was the whole Universal stick. They were essentially doing the MCU well before the MCU was even an idea in Kevin Feige's mind. Come to think of it, these movies are so old, they were doing the MCU before Kevin Feige was even an idea. But anyway, is it Feige? Feige? Like, what is it though? How do you pronounce that? I mean, man himself is going to say, hi, my name is Kevin, blah, blah, blah. And if he has, then I haven't seen it. So, and everybody just says Feige, so Feige it'll be. It'd be funny if, not Letitia, it's not Lupita Nyong'o, Tandy Newton, all these decades later, he came forward and he was like, actually, my name is Kevin Feige, So, for those who don't know, Tandy Newton, the actress Tandy Newton, her name is Thandile Newton. But when she began, she started acting, she wanted to use her full name, but apparently she couldn't because there was another actress with that name, and there would be confusion, I think. So she was advised to change her name to just Tandy, and she went like that for decades, but recently that changed and she was credited as Thandile Newton. I think the first time that happened the first time I saw her credited as that was in this movie she did with Hugh Jackman, not Under the Silver Lake. Remembrance, I think it is. Yeah, Remembrance. She did that movie, Remembrance. She was amazing in that movie. That's an amazing movie that I will review later on. Be on the lookout, giving you a heads up for what's to come. But yeah, so that's that. Enough about Feige and Newtons, man. Let's get into the movie. So yeah. After that Universal Monsterverse, there was hit after hit after hit, crossover after crossover. Then people started getting tired of that shit. And, not that people started getting tired of it, it's that, they started getting less interesting because, how many times is Dracula going to fight the Wolfman? How many times is Frankenstein going to meet the Mummy? How many times are we going to see that before it gets old? So they put it on freeze for a while. And then, decades passed, we got a ton of Dracula movies. Not as many Wolfman movies, but we got some wolf movies like American Werewolf in London and Dog Soldiers, I think it's called. Those are some good wolf movies, but not Wolfman movies. But yeah, the American Werewolf was obviously a werewolf movie. Yeah. Aside from that, yeah. And, we get the occasional I, Frankenstein, Kenneth Branagh and Robert De Niro's Frankenstein movie. You get the occasional movie like that. But none of them really hit quite like, The Mummy from the 90s, with Stephen Sommers' The Mummy trilogy. No, it's Mummy duology, because the third one was directed by Rob Cohen. So yeah. Those movies were amazing. Anyway, the first two were awesome, but I really have a soft spot for the third one. Though people say it's the least impressive in the franchise, I just love it. There's so much awesomeness going on. I just love it. The first one was like a PG-13 horror movie, and it worked because it was trying to channel the tone of those older movies. The second one was a straight up adventure story, action adventure. And the third one was also adventure, but it had these horror tinged moments. No, not really. It was an action adventure story. The second one was just an adventure story. The third one was proper action adventure, Rick almost died and I mean, granted, in the second one, Evie did die, but like, still, like, wait, does that happen in every movie? Does someone die? Oh yeah, every movie in the Mummy series, someone dies and comes back. And it's not just the Mummy. It's not just the Mummy. Someone dies and comes back in every movie, I think. It's not just the titular Mummy. But yeah, those movies were awesome, which inspired Universal to be like, maybe we can get these other monster movies back in the public eye, So then Benicio del Toro's Wolfman movie came out, and it was supposed to be like the start of the, the shared, like the monster universe, the monsterverse, if you will. But like, that movie made money, but not enough money to spawn off a whole universe. And at one point, they asked Guillermo del Toro, from one del Toro to another, like, hey, we got plans to make a monsterverse like we did back in the day. You want to be our Kevin Feige? Because they were eyeing him to direct a Frankenstein movie. It's like, hey, you want to work on these other movies too? And he was like, nah, no, I don't. I'm just kidding. I'm not going to do this stupid voice. I'm like, he doesn't have a stupid voice. It's like, but when I say it, it sounds stupid. He's got a great voice. He's hilarious. And he seems like a fun guy to be around. Just to see his performance in Death Stranding. Granted, it's not all him, but it is him in some scenes, and he's amazing there. But anyway, aside from that, he turned it down. Like, he just wanted to direct Frankenstein because he was a fan of the Frankenstein movies back in the day. He really wanted to do his own Frankenstein movie. He did not want to be tied down to direct a whole bunch of other movies he didn't care about. And I'm kind of glad he didn't, because you'd have a guy steering the ship who kind of, going from A to B to C to D when he really just wanted to go from A to B. It's like, it wouldn't be great. It would have been great because it's Guillermo del Toro. I mean, the guy doesn't miss. In those early days, he did roughly hit the mark with that movie about the cockroaches. That's a terrifying concept. Mutant cockroaches. Shit. Cockroaches the size of people. Like, fuck that, man. That's some scary shit. There's only one of those fucking movies. One franchise where the villain is mutant cockroaches, because that is a terrifying idea. But anyway, aside from all that, he turned it down. Benicio del Toro's movie came out, made money, but not enough to justify a franchise. So then they were like, okay, we're going to do a Dracula movie, Dracula Untold. And this movie was doing really well, like testing really well. And Universal was like, we might have a hit on our hands. So they went back, and the movie was done. They ordered reshoots. And in those reshoots, the story was transplanted from like the 1500s all the way into the present day, so it could link up with the movies they had planned to come later. Like, Dracula Untold wasn't originally supposed to be the first movie in the Monsterverse, but they made it that with this tacked on end credit scene of Dracula in the present day. But yeah, it's an interesting idea. And if they structured these movies similar to how DC tried to structure its universe, each movie exists in the same world as the movie that came before and is kind of a sequel to that movie, like continues that story but in a different part of the world. It could have worked. You could have had the Mummy movie make reference to like the events of Dracula way back when and so on. But yeah, it didn't work. The Monsterverse had one good movie that you could start a franchise for, and one really bad movie that you could kill a franchise with Tom Cruise's The Mummy. That movie was terrible. And I'm not surprised. It was done by the guy who wrote Amazing Spider-Man 2. So, yeah. I'm not really surprised that didn't work out. Now, I think Amazing Spider-Man 2 isn't a bad movie. It's just not great either. It doesn't live up to its title. It's not amazing. It's a movie. It's got its moments of rewatchability, its funny moments, whatever. But aside from that, there's just too much weighing it down for it to qualify as a good movie. But in my personal opinion, it's not enough shit wrong with it for it to say, oh, this is a bad movie, I wouldn't watch this. It's God-watched. But anyway, now that the Monsterverse was dead in the ground once again, thanks to Tom Cruise's Mummy movie for this time around, ironic considering it was the Mummy movies that, gave Universal the idea, like, hey, let's give this old Monsterverse thing the good old college try once more. It's ironic that it's another Mummy movie that brings it way down. This movie's not connected to the other Mummy movies, by the way. Yeah, it was trying to do its own thing, and it failed. It was painfully obvious they were trying to set up a universe. Didn't work. Anyway, moving on. After that disaster, Universal decided, you know what? Fuck the idea of a shared universe. Screw it hard. No way we're doing that. let's just focus on making Universal movies. Like, let's continue making monster movies because that's a plan, but they're not going to be in a shared universe. They're each going to be its own thing. And then came The Invisible Man. Not Len Wiseman, Lee Winnell. Lee Winnell. That name is not familiar to you. It's because he wrote the first Saw movie. So yeah, Lee Winnell, and he directed the movie Upgrade. So yeah, it's dope. Movie Upgrade is dope. Saw movie is dope. He directed The Invisible Man. That movie was super dope and intense as all hell. Like, a villain that you can't see, it's a scary idea. It's absolutely terrifying. Just like, you can't see them, you have no idea where they are, but they can see you, they can interact with you, and they can totally mess with you in a variety of ways. You know, it's just an awesome idea, and it was executed amazingly, and that restored faith in, like, maybe Universal doesn't know what they're doing, still know what they're doing with their monsters. After that, the movie we're gonna review now, Renfield. Rather than just making a straight up Dracula movie, the decision was made to do a horror comedy focusing on Dracula's Dracula's long-suffering assistant, Renfield. And it's great. Yeah. I'm going to dive into it right now. And that was the background and dive into review right here, right now. I'm not going to lie here. Renfield is not what I was expecting. I had no idea what I had some idea, but I wasn't expecting this. This movie... See, when I went to go see this movie, I was coming off a breakup, all right? And I was still feeling it. I wasn't over it. I was still feeling it. I figured, let me just go to the movies and say, sure, I'll watch this. I was wanting to watch this anyway. Nick Cage as a freaking vampire. I mean, I saw Kiss of a Vampire. Vampire's Kiss, and I thought that was hilarious. It was friggin' hilarious, and I wanted to see this movie. Yes, I'm gonna see this. Gonna take my mind off it, and I'm gonna be good. So I go in and I see Renfield in this long-suffering relationship with an abusive partner who gives him just enough to keep him hooked, but at the same time, like, not enough to offer any real commitment. And by the end of it, like, I walked out, I was happy. You know, I was glad they won. I knew that they'd win somehow. I actually know I was worried a bit. There were moments where I was genuinely worried, like, wait, they might, they're gonna squeak by somehow, right? I mean, they have to, don't they? Like, isn't that the whole point of this movie? But then again, I was like, wait, this is a Universal Studios monster movie. I don't know for sure if the good guy wins at the end. I don't know this director. I don't know. And like, I mean, yeah, in Dracula movies, they do kill Dracula, but never in such a way that he can't come back. We know he'll come back somehow. I mean, he has to. He's Dracula. If this was a movie about some random vampire, then like some random, like, powerful vampire in place of Dracula, then okay, sure. I could see them killing him off. Nah, him never coming back. But like, this is Dracula, one of Universal Studios' big names. He's not a lot to compare it to, except, I don't know, Batman, in terms of cultural significance and the number of people in costumes, the number of movies inspired by him. He's their Batman, I guess. He's, you know, DC has Batman, Marvel has Iron Man. He's their Iron Man or whatever. He's the big name that people think of when they think Universal Monsters. Sure, you got your Frankensteins, your mummies, but you, at the end of the day, you know, when it comes time to Halloween comes around and horror movies are going up and horror movies are coming out, and people really dig vampires. Zombies come and go. They're zombies. And, you know, what else? Wolfman is dope. I don't see anybody who doesn't like the idea of a wolfman or a werewolf or movies about wolfmen and werewolves. But interest in that also isn't as high as it could be, and it comes and goes. But with vampires, with your Twilight, your Dracula 2000, your Bram Stoker's Dracula, you got vampires in kids' TV shows, like that one vampire in Casper's The Friendly Ghost TV show, like Scare School. They're everywhere. You got Marceline the Vampire Queen. I almost forgot that. Marceline the Vampire Queen, so damn cool. It's just, you know, he's that level of impact and meaning and all this stuff So surely you're not going to kill off this big name character. I mean, Invisible Man, you could believe that, okay, they're going to win the day because it's not the Invisible Man we know. It's not the guy who took the serum, went invisible, wrapped himself in bandages. I mean, if you want to watch a movie about a guy wrapped in bandages, pretending to not be invisible, then go watch Memoirs of an Invisible Man. This is the Invisible. It wasn't, yeah. This isn't that Invisible Man. This is a different guy. It's a guy in a suit. So, I mean, yeah, it's... of course, he might die. And the mummy, the mummy's going to die. The mummy dies in every movie, but it always comes back. It's not always, but like, there will be some way. Either there'll be another mummy, or they'll find some way to resurrect this one. There's no... Okay, there is some definitive death there. Well, the mummy's already dead, so definitive re-death. I'm getting off topic, but yeah. He's not going anywhere, but he does. They lose. They get him, At some point, like, to the movie, I was thinking, maybe... Because, like, the movie starts off with some straight-up horror and, like, gradually tones it way down as more of the comedy comes in. And Renfield gets in a relationship with Awkwafina's character. I'm thinking maybe, since this is more comedy than... It's, like, a comedy with horror elements. And that's what I was thinking half the time. I'm like, maybe, just maybe, Dracula's gonna see the error of his ways and be like, I was wrong to treat you like this, You're the only one who stood by me all these years. I'm thinking maybe that's what it's going to be. And then I realized, wait a minute. That's what everyone thinks. In this kind of relationship, that's what everybody friggin' thinks. Everyone in this kind of relationship would think, he'll change. He's not going to be, surely he can't be this way forever. He'll see the error in his ways. He'll value me like I feel like I should be valued. He'll give me the respect I've earned. We'll finally... have the same amount of love and care for each other, that's why this movie works so perfectly. Because even the audience can not only put themselves in Renfield's shoes. From what they're viewing, they can be in his head and be in that moment. Because we've all at some point been there. Either we've all been that guy. We've been in that position. We've all been the Renfield in a toxic relationship that's going nowhere. But we held out hope that someday it will go somewhere. And it's just... It would make... it should make you so sad. I get it. It would make anyone sad to be in this kind of relationship. It would be it's a soul-crushing experience to go do this kind of thing. To give, and all the other person does is take, seemingly without end. All they do is take, and you think at some point they're going to give you something. They have to give you something, because you've given so much. You don't want a lot. You just want a little. Just like a little something, a little love, a little appreciation, a little respect. And they can't even give you that. Like, eventually you're going to be like, screw this, I'm out. There's a whole other world out there. There's a life for me out there. A life where I'm not subservient to this person. Where I'm not needing this person like I am now. And Renfield does that. This before all that though, like Dracula gets attacked. I mean, imagine if Garfield was in this movie. Whether it's Andrew Garfield or I Hate Mondays Garfield, it's still hilarious. But yeah, it would be funny. It was like it's just Garfield walking up to people. I hate Mondays. Whatever. So. The Dark Universe may be dead, but monsters like Dracula, the Invisible Man, are alive and well. See, the movie begins in medias res with Renfield narrating his first meeting with Dracula. It looks like one of those old black and white Universal monster movies. When we first see Dracula after his initial being attacked and like pleading with Renfield, see, he only is like, I need you, or like, when he actually needs him. It's like, oh crap, man, like, they got me. They gonna kill me, help me, like, I need you to do something so I can free myself, just, not I need you specifically, like, I need you to do something, because you're the only one here, you're the only one who will, do something, help me out, man, I need you in this moment, I don't need you eternally, like, perpetually. I mean, technically he does, because he needs somebody to bring him bodies later on so he can rejuvenate, but other than that, it's like, yeah, he thinks to himself, surely he'll change. Like, really, this can't last forever. It lasts for some long time. He gets set on, like Dracula gets set on fire when he's fighting off these people who want him dead, and he kills them off, all of them. They were the last, like, line of fighters against dark arts or demons or whatever. They were the last people who fought these kind of monsters. It's like, and the dying priest says, like, everybody kills from now on, it's gonna be on you. Like, we were the last people left who could stop him. Like, every death that's his doing from this point on, and like, we will stop because of you. So everything bad that happens by his hand is on your head, dude. Live with that shit. Because we are out. We dying. Peace. Anyway, so when we first see him, now that we know he's recovering, we see this just amazing throne that the Renfield has set up for him, where Dracula lays at night. And it's like the sword, the throne from Game of Thrones. It just has all these swords sticking into it where the back of the chair would be. Imagine that. But instead of swords, there were tubes connecting to blood bags. There would just be this wall of blood bags, all connecting and leading down to this like seat where Dracula would sit. It's horrific. It's like damn, the like set design in this movie, in this scene, not just in this scene, but like throughout, the locations and stuff are like really like well selected and well set up and shot amazingly well. I don't know who's directing this, but like it's good. Damn, dude, you nailed it. Like perfect use of, like, this movie has excellent use of Nick Cage as the main villain, not the main antagonist, and when halfway through the movie he becomes the villain, he really goes all villain. There's no redemption there. There's no possibility of you thinking they might change, because at that point, once you realize this relationship is toxic and you want out, the toxic partner really reveals just how toxic. I mean, it's like, you thought I was bad before. Let me show you what it looks like when I'm actually actively trying to harm you. That's what the toxic relationship will do. It's like, oh, you thought I was hurting you before? No, I wasn't even trying to hurt you then. Now I'm gonna. And he seeks out to do so. He teams up with this one crime boss's son, who's played by Ben Schwartz. You may not recognize that name, but you would recognize his voice if you heard it. He voiced Randy Cunningham, 8th or 9th grade ninja. It was on Disney XD. He voiced Sonic the Hedgehog, and it's in the movie, in the two movies, and it's great. He just works, man. He just works as those voices. But here, as an actor in this role, he works too. He works as this scummy, like, good guy. It's like, man, like, no one. He's that guy you're not afraid of. You're not afraid of him. You're afraid of the people he works for. Like, you don't mess with this dude because you know who his... Like, if this was college, you don't mess with that guy because you know who his parents are. Since this is a crime role, it's like, you don't mess with this dude because you know who his family is. His introduction is hilarious. He's driving this, like, butcher to, murder some people who stole drugs from him and his family. And then Renfield shows up. He kills those people, kills the butcher, because they were like harassing this friend he has in this help group for abuse victims. So he kills them, kills the butcher, and the guy's head winds up smearing on like Schwartz's car. Schwartz freaks out, drives away, crashes right into a police barricade. Oh, dude, it's hilarious. He's like confessing and like begging to be locked away. It's like, what about murders? You want no murders? We killed this guy just the other day, man. Like, it's like, you gotta lock me up, man. Get me somewhere, get me to safety, get me the hell out of here. Just, I don't know. Wait, I think that's what he was doing, or like he was giving them info so he could get out. You know, like be let go or something. Like, he totally misunderstood what was going on. Like, they weren't even asking him anything. They weren't even questioning him or whatever. They were just like watching, and he was going on and on and on. It's like, can we speed up the process so I can go, so we can get this moving? I do not want to be sitting here. And it's like, you threw. They pointed out, like, as he was getting away, when they're trying to arrest him, he chucked a bag of cocaine at this dude's face, and it hit him. Like, it hit him square in the face, and it's totally unrealistic. He didn't get a little bit high. It's nonsense, man. Not even a little bit. Come on. You got a bag of cocaine hit you square in the face and it bust open. You're stoned at that point, man. Okay, it's not weed, but like you're bugging out at the very least. Goddamn. But yeah. What was I gonna say? But yeah, Ben Schwartz is hilarious. Awkwafina is at times unintentionally hilarious. There's supposed to be this moment where like her and her sister have an argument about like her being a cop trying to live up to her dead dad's like his legendary name, you know, because like the sister's in the FBI, the dad was this big name cop, and now Awkwafina's character is a B cop, and she's like they have the argument and she storms away, but like she's got like this gear on that has like a high collar, and from the back her neck kind of disappears, so it just looks like she's stomping away like with no neck, and she kicks a chair out of anger, and there's like no sound, but like it's not like a hard brah, it's like a soft and continues walking like an angry stomp away, and it's hilarious. It's like, wait, I get you're not trying to be funny, but this is kind of funny. The look, the setting, just everything. Oh, dude. Awkwafina can be funny when she's trying to be funny, but she can also be funny when she's not trying to be funny. I don't mean like she's funny when she's trying to be serious. I mean like this is just that humor, man. You have that natural ability to be funny in a way. Yeah. She works in this movie as like the one good cop stereotype. Like everybody's corrupt except me, you know. She works in that role because in this comedy setting. Schwartz works. Nicholas Hoult as Renfield works as the main character. And I've never seen him lead a movie outside of this, because Warm Bodies, technically he was lead, but he was a co-lead, plus he was a zombie, so yeah, he didn't have a lot to say in that first like act. It wasn't until he started munching more brains and he became like more human, and his words, he began to string together words with more than one syllable, that okay, now it's like, yeah, he's in there. And in movies since then, he's always been with somebody, but now, sure, he's still with somebody, but he's not co-lead with anybody. He's the primary protagonist. I mean, true, you could say he's sharing the spotlight with Nicolas Cage, but in this instance, he's the primary protagonist. Cage is the primary antagonist. They're both the headlining names. They're both the main event, you know? That's what I'm saying. When we first see Dracula in his convalescence, he looks hideous. He's like something out of the Resident Evil remake, but like he regenerates over time as he feeds blood. There's this scene where Renfield tries to feed him, like this one bodyguard guy named Todd, and Dracula spits out the dude's finger actually ripped off. It's like, what is this? It's like, this is Todd. They're like, Todd is crap. You bring me crap. Like, it's like that married couple where like the wife cooks the husband dinner, husband takes a bite and is like, what is this? It's like, and then she says something, it's like, well, this tastes like crap, and chucks it away, like, you're serving me crap, like, what are you doing? Like, you can't even cook, yeah, you don't do nothing right, what's wrong with you? Like, I don't ask for a lot. He goes into this thing where he's like, I don't ask for a lot. You know, maybe a bus full of nuns, like a congregation of nuns, a bus full of cheerleaders, you know, like they could, like some cheerleader blood would get me back to full strength. Like, wait, you mean like girl cheerleaders? Like, girls or boys, I don't discriminate, I talk both. Like, yes, he may be, centuries old, blood-sucking vampire who wants to take over the world, but at least he doesn't discriminate, you know? So Renfield gets his powers from eating insects, much like Dracula gets his powers from drinking blood. And so he keeps a matchbox of bugs with him on all times when he needs to like strength up, until he decides to quit being Dracula's servant, and he gives like his box with like ants in it to this girl with an ant farm. It just needs this hilarious scene where they're being chased by goons and he needs to power up again, but there's no bugs around, and he goes like, wait, goes back, and he doesn't say exactly where he's going, but you know where he's going because you remember they go to the ant farm, and he just chugs the ant farm sand and all, like, to get his power back. I was thinking, what the? Man, friggin' sand. Coarse, rough, and it gets all up inside of you. Whew. But yeah, Dracula, after discovering Renfield walked out on him, he says, "Screw it. I don't actually need you anymore. I'm gonna it was you who needed me, and he tries to flip it like he's somehow the victim of all this stuff, as abusers do, because abusers don't know the damage they do. And in the eyes of an abuser or person who's the abuser in an abusive relationship, nothing is ever their fault. It's always your fault because they're toxic. And if they have to admit that something's their fault, they have to admit that they made a mistake. And they're never wrong. It's always someone else's fault. It's always someone else who's the person to blame. But yeah, so he turns heel. A science, teams up with the boss lady, turns her son into his new servant. Him and Renfield fight, and you think, okay, same versus same, it's not going to be very interesting. But it kind of is, because sure, these guys, like the guys Dracula has turned into his new servant, there's the same versus, they have the same powers as Renfield. However, Renfield, and so there's more of them. It's like a quality versus quantity thing. Sure, there's more of them, but Renfield, having lived hundreds of years, has way more experience with these powers. He knows how strong he actually is. He knows how fast he is. He knows his limits, and he knows how to use them better than these other guys do. So yeah, he's sure he wipes them out, and there's a scene where Ben Schwartz, sure, everyone has to eat bugs to get juiced up. There's a scene where Ben Schwartz snorts a centipede. I'm just thinking, no, that's not, you wouldn't digest that. That would just go straight into your lungs and it would sit there. It's that, if you're gonna have dude eat a centipede, have him slurp it up, yeah, it makes more sense to have him slurp the damn thing instead of going and have it go into his nose and suddenly he's juiced up. No, you don't digest like that. It's not a drug. Drugs go straight to your brain, but they gotta enter your bloodstream first. A centipede is an insect. If you inhale that, it would go down your nostrils into your lungs and it would sit there. No mixing in your blood or anything. It would just do that. But yeah. Anyway, moving on. The fight happens. Renfield punches Ben Schwartz so hard that blood spurts out of his mouth and out of his butt. This is like a straight up fatality. Straight up hits him with a fatality and moves on to teaming up with Awkwafina to fight and defeat Dracula with a ring of white powder. They were able to contain him in a ring of white powder. And the white powder is made of cocaine, and it's I guess any old white powder will work. It's funny, but while they have him there, they chop him up into little bitty pieces, they mix them with concrete, and they flush him down the sewer. Extreme? Yes. Effective? Heck yes, man. It's such a great idea, because thing is with these movies, the reason the bad guy keeps coming back is because the good guys never make sure he's dead. They never kill him in such a way that there's no possible way he could come back. They always cut off his head or shoot him in the heart or just shoot him in the head and then leave him there. They always just leave him there and they keep going, think, okay, he's taking a bullet to the head, or his head's been cut off, or he fell down a really high place, so surely he's gone, right? And then they're wrong. They come back. But this ending right here is good. I love this ending because it's even if he does come back, it's going to take a long time for him to piece himself back together because we chopped him up into little bitty pieces and those pieces can't regenerate at, the place they normally would because we've mixed them with cement. And even if somehow those little pieces, and since we sprayed them to the sewers, those little pieces are going to probably wind up scattered all over the city. So yes, it's kind of parallaxing him, just burying him in a hole and forgetting about it. But it's a way more effective parallaxing him because you've dismembered him and you've put it's what they did to that chick in Hellboy 2018. They cut her up into different pieces and then scattered the different pieces all over the country so she could never reassemble because they thought, well, we can't kill her. We can't find a way to kill her, but we can chop her up into pieces and then bury the pieces. So yeah, Why they would, in those situations, people always seem to leave behind a map to the pieces, I don't know. Just don't. Leave it. Don't even, just, if you chop up the enemy that can't die and you stick him in holes all over the world, just don't mark the places all over the world. Forget them. Just keep them that way. Is there ever a situation where you would need to know where these pieces are so you could bring this person back? Only the bad guys do that. Like with Imhotep in The Mummy Returns. Like Imhotep, they knew exactly where it was and they were digging him up. They dug up an old evil because there's this other evil that was coming and we need an evil that's strong enough to take on this other evil. Like it's the lesser of two evils. Not in terms of power, but like it's more favorable to have him running things than the Scorpion King running things. They even laid out in the movie. The Rick says that's why they dug up Imhotep because he's the only guy who's tough enough to take on the Scorpion King. There's some logic in that scene, you know. There's logic in why the bad guys would want to know where he is and dig him back up. In Hellboy, that doesn't make sense why they leave a map telling them where the bad guy is, like the bad guy body pieces are. Doesn't know or ways to find them. It doesn't make any sense. And it makes less sense for the person who digs them up to be digging them up. This weird demon monstrosity who once, I'm guessing, like he was embarrassed by Hellboy at some point, and now he wants the demon witch to make him stronger so that he can go back and beat up Hellboy. But like, surely there are other ways to do that don't involve resurrecting ancient evil and bringing about the end of the world. Surely there are other ways to do that, right? Surely there's like a spell book or something. I mean, just saying. There's gotta be better ways for you to or you could just I'm just saying, this may take a while, but you really could just work out, you know, get bigger, stronger, so you can go back all juiced up and take on Hellboy on your own. Don't have to bring up ancient evils, don't have to go on a fetch quest, don't have to, you know, incur the wrath of Hellboy on the route to getting strong enough to beat Hellboy. Just saying, the guy does kick his ass a bunch of times. Before the movie, before they get to like the third act fight, he does encounter him once, and they do get out. So, bottom line, Moonlight Citizens, I would absolutely recommend this movie. Plenty of gory kills, plenty of comedic moments, plenty of just, you know, there's something for the horror fans. There's something for like fans of comedies. There's something for fans of like romance in a sense. Like this is fans of Awkwafina, fans of Nicholas Hoult from his X-Men days or whatever. There's something for everyone in here, you know? This is not just a horror movie, there's more to it than that. And if Universal continues down this path of making these, you know, independent horror movies, not indie like they're not Batman Studio, independent as in existing in their own world, they make these horror movies that exist in their own universe, disconnected from one another, and they keep turning out hits and movies like this, I'll be glad. Like, I'm good with that. I'm absolutely good with that. It's 100% cool by me, man. I don't mind that. I prefer that to a shared universe of crappy movies. I way prefer that. Singular movies with their own mission, their own drive, their own idea that doesn't have to connect to a larger story. They work just as Christopher Nolan. Just saying. That Batman movie's not connected to anything. It works on its own and it's great. Just ask Matt Reeves. Just ask Tim Burton. You know, they're all Batman guys, but still, just ask them. Those movies work. They don't connect to anything. They exist in their own world. And look it out. He's the Batman. He's the one digging DC out of, you know, the trenches, man. He's always the one bailing them out. And they always treat him like crap in return. Just saying. There was a point in 2000 where everybody loved Batman. And, you know, we want to see more Batman, and they always find some way to just be like, nah. Just forget the fact that you're a big household name. But other than that, that's a totally another channel. You want to know my review of this movie? It is. I give this movie a 9 out of 10 stakes. Right to the heart, this movie got me, man. 9 out of 10. Would recommend, would watch again. Absolutely a great film. Renfield 2023. And as usual, this has been the Moonlight Kingdom Reviews. I have been your man on the moon. As always, Moonlight citizens, stay safe. And, you know, if you feel like you're in a toxic relationship, feel like things aren't working out, there's people you can call. You know, you got friends and family out there who will help you. And, you know, take back the power in your relationship. Do not let your abusive other reach full power over you. That's all I have to say.